In 2022, Kansas won their first national championship since 2008, Bill Self's second in his career. Going into the next season in November 2022, it was announced Bill Self and assistant coach Curtis Townsend would serve a 4-game suspension for an alleged recruiting violation from a 2017 FBI probe. With the roster reloaded through the number 4 recruiting class and a few transfers, Kansas finished the 22-23 regular season 25-6. Their 33rd consecutive 20-plus win season, their 38th in the previous 39 seasons. But Bill Self was unable to coach in the Big 12 and the NCAA tournament after having a procedure on his heart. With Bill Self back to full strength in 2023, and now the recruiting violation is pretty much baked into the cake, what can Kansas expect? Please like and subscribe the video. Thanks.
Draymond Green finds Lucius for the win. He got it.
One timeout, they don't take it.
He got it. He got it. Butler
Gets it in. Booker gets it off.
This one's good if it goes. Holy cow!
Every game Kansas lost in the 22-23 season was to a ranked team. They ended their season with a loss at number 9 Texas, and even without Bill Self made the Big 12 championship game, where Texas beat them again 7 days later with nearly an identical score. Kansas went to the NCAA tournament as a 1 seed with hopes of a back-to-back title run, but without Bill Self there was little hope. After whomping Howard in the first round, an 8 seed Arkansas, a good SEC team, took them to the wire, pulling out the win 72-71 and sending Kansas home. After the season, as expected, shooting guard small forward Grady Dick announced for the draft and is projected as a fringe lottery pick. Many mock drafts show him going between the 15th and 17th pick. Small forward Jalen Wilson also went to the draft, being projected as a second-round pick. As for transfers, sophomore guard Kyle Cuff Jr. went and transferred to Syracuse. Sophomore and former 4-star center Zuby Ejiofor transferred to St. John's. Sophomore and former 4-star forward MJ Rice transferred back home to North Carolina State. Sophomore and former 4-star center Ernest Udeh Jr. surprised everyone when he chose TCU over Duke. As for guys that were there for the title run, junior power forward Zach Clements went to UC Santa Barbara. Junior guard Bobby Pettiford Jr. went home to East Carolina. And senior guard Joseph Yesufu went to Washington State. And finally, super senior Cam Martin went to Boise State. So that's 10 players gone. But this is Kansas, remember? 33 consecutive 20-plus win seasons. This isn't going to be some massive drop-off. I mean, look, Kansas currently has the number 7 best recruiting class and number 1 best transfer class coming into the season. So this year, in the backcourt, Kansas will have redshirt junior guard DeJuan Harris Jr. At 6'1", the veteran has started all but 1 game for the Jayhawks the last 2 seasons. This past season, he averaged 7.3 points per game, 7.7 rebounds, while going perfect from the free throw line. He was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year his junior season. Now DeJuan Harris Jr. is smooth. He'll rock you to sleep with a dribble or with his movement off ball, and before you know it, he's flashing to the basket and scoring the ball. He won't blow you away with his size or athleticism, but he's got ball skills, knows how to play the game, and gets it done on the court. Harris Jr. is highly efficient on offense, hitting a high percentage from the floor and from 3, while also taking care of the ball, and doing a great job of getting teammates involved. Sophomore guard, 6'3", Atario Morris, a transfer from Texas. A former 5-star recruit and 4-star transfer, Morris came off the bench for all 38 games last season, averaging 11.8 minutes, 4.6 points, 0.7 steals, and half an assist. He may end up competing for time at the 2-guard spot, as the point guard spot is currently locked down by team leader DeJuan Harris Jr. Multiple analysis are speculating that Morris may compete for time with Elmarco Jackson, a McDonald's All-American and top 25 recruit, who's set to begin his freshman season at Kansas University. What Morris will bring to the table from deep distance is an open question. He made 3-pointers at a 33% rate at Texas, hitting 29 for 87 for the Longhorns. Morris will also bring some off-the-court issues with him to Lawrence. He was charged with a Class A misdemeanor after a June 2020 altercation with his ex-girlfriend in the Dallas area. ESPN has reported through his attorney, Morris has said he was innocent. Morris was allowed to play this past season while awaiting a trial for domestic violence charge. At 6'6", Kevin McCullough returns as a redshirt senior. McCullough came over from Texas Tech last year. He started all but 1 game for Kansas. He averaged 10.7 points, 7.33 season. He declared for the NBA draft and participated in the recent NBA Combine. However, he elected to return to Kansas to play his final year of eligibility. The super senior can play both forward positions. McCullough is a two-time Naismith Defensive Player of the Year semifinalist for the 21-22 and 22-23 seasons. While there are spacing concerns offensively, this is a huge lift for Kansas's defense and a player who self-trusts. Now about spacing. McCullough is just a 29.8% three-point shooter for his career, and there's a reason he's still in college. He needs to show improvement to grow his professional stock. McCullough is at least enough of a threat the defensive usually have to respect him, and don't totally ignore him on the perimeter. Eventually, it would be nice if he could knock down spot-up threes, because those are going to be there. Kansas also adds super senior from Towson, sharpshooter Nick Timberlake. At 6'4", 205 pounds, the combo guard is known as a gifted offensive player. Timberlake shot 45.5% from the floor last season, including 41.6% from the three-point line. He also shot 85% from the free throw line. Bill Self said Kansas needed shooting and size, and he found it here. With the departures of Jalen Wilson, Grady Dick, Joe Yusuf, the Jayhawks will be looking to replace 206 of their 251 three-point makes, 82% from last season. Watching Timberlake on film, one of the things that most stands out here is that he's able to catch, keep the ball high, and get a shot off in a hurry. Athletically, Timberlake isn't bad either. He's a real threat as a lob catcher, has just enough wiggle room to dribble in the mix of things, and plays with real confidence. During the most recent season, he averaged 17.7 points per game while playing an average of 36 minutes per outing. He was a first-team All-Colonial Athletic Association pick as both a junior and a senior, and named to the CAA All-Tournament team. He also won the CAA Sixth Man of the Year during the 2019-2020 season. Kansas adds incoming four-star freshman, 6'3" guard, Marco Jackson. Jackson's combination of size, power, and speed is elite. He gets downhill as well as any guard in the national class, not just in the open floor, where he has a full head of steam, but in the half court as well, with his ability to turn the corner on a ball screen. He initiates contact, draws a ton of fouls, and will even elongate his strides going through the lane to gain separation from his defender. Defensively, he can impose his will as well, both picking up the ball for the length of the floor and guarding multiple positions. The biggest strength in Jackson's game is his decision-making ability. A year ago, his entire attack was built around sheer force. Now he's learned to play with a vary of his speeds and pick his shots. His ability to see the floor and make reads off ball screens has improved dramatically and become a true weapon. In short, he has become a true point guard, making his physical gifts all the more valuable at the position. Still not yet a totally reliable three-point shooter, as he leans back into a release that comes from his deep shoulder. He rarely looks for the three and will often attack the gap of a short closeout in order to get downhill, rather than step into his shot. Jackson needs the ball in his hands to be at his best, so we can expect a learning curve as he learns to play off ball, since until this point, he's always been the focal point of every offense he's ever played in. And that won't be the case here at Kansas. While he can really move his feet defensively, he could stand to play lower to the ground. While he is an explosive, vertical athlete, he could stand to develop a little bit more of his craft as a finisher, on the rare occasion that he can't rely on his physical tools alone. Another incoming freshman, 6'4" shooting guard, Jamari McDaniel, joins the Jayhawks. McDaniel is long and athletic with a solid frame that is only going to continue filling out. He runs, jumps with ease, covers the court, gets well above the rim. While more wing than true guard right now, there is a skill set that is clearly developing. He was reportedly not known as a shooter coming up in the ranks, but shoots a clean and easy ball now, and even flashes with glimpses of tough shot-making potential. Similarly, he's not an overly dynamic creator yet, but he's good enough with the ball to be a potential big secondary handler and pick-and-roll threat down the road. Defensively, there's clear tools with his length and size, effortless mobility, and generally a high motor. Overall, McDowell appears to be a rapidly emerging wing who combines physical tools, budding skills, good intangibles, and some big guard potential to impact the game at both ends of the floor. As for the front court, it will be completely shaped by the transfer class, specifically the Decision 2023 as I'm calling it. And that big name from the Decision is Hunter Dickinson. Honestly, I thought he was going to go back to Michigan, but he recently revealed NIL was a major decision here. He said he was getting less than 6 figures at Michigan, and I've read rumors of what other centers like Baycott at UNC are pulling in, and it makes sense that the more talented guy would move to get paid. Rumor has it schools rolled out the checkbook for him, with Maryland offering over $2 million, and Kentucky giving an entire presentation of what he can make with endorsements after signing, but he chose Kansas. Hunter Dickinson is a huge get, literally huge. He's 7'1", 255-pound center. Dickinson was a 3-time All Big Ten performer in 3 seasons for the Wolverines, He averaged 18.5 points, 9 rebounds per game as a junior, and finished 4th in the conference in points, rebounds, blocks per game. He's a throwback center who throws his weight around inside and also has a really soft touch around the basket. He establishes his position well, using his big frame to shield defenders and carve out space in the paint. Has a really good touch from the inside and from mid-range. A lefty who can score with either hand. He shot nearly 60% from the field as a freshman. Plays a mature game and makes good decisions with the ball. He knows how to move the ball out of double teams. If he improves his passing game, becoming a very high-level passer, that could be his ticket to the NBA as an older prospect for his class. He doesn't have great speed or agility, but for college he's a good defender. Next at forward, Kansas brings in redshirt senior Parker Braun from Santa Clara. The 6'10" big man has 1 year of eligibility left, but Jayhawks fans might remember his name, as he's the older brother of former Jayhawk Christian Braun, who currently plays professionally for the Denver Nuggets. Spending last season at Santa Clara, Braun averaged 7.7 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 2 assists per game. The 6'10" forward began his playing career at Missouri, playing 44 games through 2 seasons with the Tigers, where Braun shot 66% from the field, averaging 2 points per game. He started all but 1 of 66 games at Santa Clara over the next 2 years, averaging 7.3 points per game, before seeking out Bill Self and the Jayhawks. Freshman forward Marcus Adams Jr. comes as a 4-star prospect. He did say he chose Kansas because of NIL, so between that and Hunter Dickinson, it sounds like Kansas really has their NIL program figured out. At 6'8", he can dunk, rebound, block shots, make 3-pointers, plus out-muscle and out-power opponents. The talent is there for all to see. He wants to be a one-and-done college player, then pursue professional aspirations. He comes with a huge chip on his shoulder. Somebody gave him some bad advice on what classes to take at prep school, forced him to retake those classes online this year so he could be eligible to play for a college team. He became so fed up with other players being hyped ahead of him that it served as motivation to get in the gym and become a better player. He said he was tired of being underrated. There isn't a ton out there of Adams because he wasn't really on the national radar until last year and wasn't always playing top opponents. It looks like he's a decent 3-point shooter who's developed his inside game after settling for bad shots early in his high school career. He's a big wing who can play the 4, and he showed off the ability to create and make deep jumpers, pound the glass, finish above the rim in traffic. Although his mind is on offense and he wants to be a 3-level scorer, Wilson is an incredible rebounder while playing the 4, and KU needs Adams to focus on crashing the glass. And finally, there's junior forward KJ Adams Jr., a burly and strong, explosive 6'7" big man who doesn't have the ideal height for the NBA, but is a real difference maker on the court and will get a chance to make it at the next level. He's one of the more powerful and explosive athletes in college basketball and is a menace around the rim. A big-time dunker and solid rebounder who's always a threat on the offensive glass, has shown great improvements as a scorer with good touch around the basket and makings of a mid-range game. He played 3 total minutes in Kansas' 72-69 victory against UNC in the 2022 Natty and was a defensive substitution for the final possession of the game. Adams entered his sophomore season as the Jayhawks starting small forward. As a sophomore, he was named Big 12 Most Improved Player, and as a starter, he shot 62% from the field, averaging 10.6 points and 4.3 rebounds. These players joined walk-ons Wilder Evers, Charlie McCarthy, Michael Jankovic, and Dylan Whitehite. So for sure, it's safe to say that at center, Hunter Dickinson will get the start, KJ Adams at the 4. Also, the question will be, does Marcus Adams Jr. contend for starts at all? DeJuan Harris Jr. will start at the 1 guard, and I'd assume Arterio Morris or Nick Timberlake could find themselves starting at the 2, with Kevin McCullough at the 3. Don't forget, Kansas has self-imposed a 3-year scholarship limit due to recruiting violations, so it limits what else can be brought in. The glaring issue for the Jayhawks is their lack of front court depth. Despite bringing in Santa Clara transfer Parker Braun, there's no telling if he'll make much of an impact at a higher level. He only averaged 2 points per game for his 2 seasons at Mizzou. Hunter Dickinson figures to be the star of the show for Kansas, but what happens when he gets in foul trouble or needs to rest? KJ Adams will move back to the center, forcing McCullough or Marcus Adams Jr. to play the big wing spot that KJ will presumably fill. Aside from Dickinson, only 2 players on the roster are 6'8" or taller. Kansas's guard room is stacked, so that should not be much of an issue. The only potential concern here is bringing in another forward. While there's a good chance that the 11 scholarship guys on the roster right now will make up next year's roster, aside from walk-ons, which in that case, Kansas will have 1 spare scholarship in the following 2 seasons. ESPN has the Jayhawks opening number 1 overall. The trio of DeJuan Harris Jr., McCullough, and KJ Adams Jr. returning, with Hunter Dickinson's just too much. Harris is an elite pass-first guard and terrific defender. McCullough is versatile and defends well. Adams will find a new role next year, although we all saw what happened last year with UNC, when they started number 1 overall and finished unranked, not even attempting to play in the NIT. So don't count your Jayhawks before they hatch, but this could be another title run.